Happy money, happy money, happy money flow. Happy money flow, happy money flow, happy money flow. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's week 2. Way to go! You made it through the whole first week. Now we're going to go back. We're going to look at the things again in a different way. We're going to learn a little bit more. I'm going to tell a few more stories. But today's Sunday, and a reminder's to be still. And so we're going to pick up with that little girl. The next weekend, the next Sunday, she ran outside into her backyard again. She was excited. She went past the swing set, past the playhouse, into the trees, and down into the forest and ravine. She knew where she was going. She hopped back and forth across the stream of water. She ran downstream. This time she was motivated. She wanted to get there again. She kept going through the ravine until she reached that deer track that crossed up and out of it. And there the big meadow, the grassy field, and the big sky was there, and the path that just hugged the edge of that meadow. She took it as it curved around till it came to the point where it wide, one path going into that pine forest, and the other going around the meadow. She went into the pine forest again, and she felt those needles start to sweep her clean. The needles on the ground she felt too. Soft, soft walking. Cushy, spongy, bouncy walking. She's never felt so good before in her life. But she walked at a faster pace this time. Brought with her a little bit more of yesterday with her. And so, while the needles cleansed her, grabbed out as many thoughts as she could, she was walking faster past them. She was excited. Eventually, she came to the spot where she could start to see that pond just below the tree branches. She walked down. She sat next to the rock. She looked all around the pond at all the pine trees that surrounded the place and kept it so still. Well, she sat there, staring into that perfectly clear water, reflecting a beautiful blue sky. She felt herself go into the water, into that pond. It was as if her mind and her eyes were right at the surface, seeing everything the water saw. And her body felt everything in that whole body of water. In that moment, she thought of something. She thought of the flowers that she loved in springtime. And as she did so, a drop came down and entered the pond. And when it hit, it made rings that expanded outwards, outwards, outwards. So quiet and still all the way to the edge of the pond. The stillness of where she was incredible. And her mind came back to her a little bit, and she found herself sitting once again on the rock. And then she thought of school and some of her classmates. And just as she thought that, a little breeze dove down under the pines and rippled the water. And the water went rippling across, and she could no longer see the sky, the pond. But she sat there for a while. And the stillness of the place surrounded her once again. And the pond got quiet, and she could see the sky in it again. She soaked it up. She loved it. And then she thought once again. She thought of the chocolate chip cookies that her mother makes and how much she loved them. How good they tasted, how gooey they were. And just as she was thinking that, another drop came down from the sky and hit the center of the pond. And that single thought rippled out, slowly, slowly expanding until it reached the edges of the pond and hit the shore. With that thought sinking in, she was inspired to start on her way home. So she turned, she walked through the forest, and the needles wiped everything out of her, cleansing all of her thoughts, leaving her calm and present. She walked more slowly now. One step, 2 steps. She felt each foot sink into those soft needles. And then eventually she came out to the big clearing and the grassy meadow out in front of her and took the path headed back home. And as she did so, just off into the field just a little bit, she saw a little violet flower that she hadn't noticed before. And she went down the deer trail and into the ravine. And there on the far side, she saw bluebells flowering. And she contently walked up along the side of that stream, up and up and up to her backyard, and up into the house. And as she did so, she smelled something, and she made it to the kitchen, where her mother greeted her with a surprise. She was making cookies, and they'd just come out of the oven. She was just in time. Well, she did love and enjoy those cookies. Her story continues on and on and on. And yours does too. And incorporating this stillness into it. Finding a spot, a time where the mind can quiet out is incredibly powerful. Because when you come back and drop in that drop, your next thought, instead of having it compete with all the other ripples of the wind and the busyness of life, goes right into that still, quiet pond and has a chance to ripple out all the way to the edges. So your assignment today is to find 15 minutes and find that place of stillness inside of you. Sit someplace comfortable. Enjoy it. Let the thoughts go and find a pond that reflects all that there is. Much love, beautiful world.